The stars looked different now. Commander Zethara pressed her webbed hand against the cool metal of the observation deck, watching the lights of New Geneva sparkle below. 3,000 years had passed since the last human ship left Earth, and the planet had flourished under Valthari care. The blue oceans belonged to her people, the Hydrozans. Their cities floated beneath the waves, connected by streams of light that pulsed with the rhythm of their collective heartbeat. On land, the insectoid Chittic had built towering hives that reached toward the sky, their chittering voices creating a constant hum of activity. Above them all, the energy beings called Luxari danced through the upper atmosphere, their forms shifting like living aurora. Earth was peaceful. Earth was prosperous. Earth was theirs. "Commander," a voice crackled through her communication implant. "Deep space monitoring has detected something unusual." Zethara's gill slits fluttered with annoyance. She had requested quiet time to review the morning reports. The archaeological teams working in the old human ruins had found another cache of their primitive technology. Nothing threatening, just curiosities from a dead civilization. "What kind of unusual?" she asked. "Ships, Commander. Large formations, moving at incredible speed toward our system." That got her attention. Zethara turned away from the window and activated the holographic display in her command center. The three-dimensional star map flickered to life, showing the outer edges of their solar system. "Show me," she commanded. The technician, a nervous young Chittic named Clickstar, manipulated the controls with his forearms. "Here, Commander. At first we thought it was a system error. The readings are impossible." Zethara studied the data stream, hundreds of objects, each one massive, moving in perfect formation. Their speed was beyond anything in the known galaxy. Even more disturbing, they were slowing down in a controlled manner, which meant they weren't asteroids or natural phenomena. "How long until they reach us?" "If they maintain current deceleration, 17 days, Commander." "Have you identified their origin?" Clickstar's compound eyes clicked nervously. "That's the strange part. The energy signatures match some of the artifacts in the human ruins. The computer keeps saying they're human ships, but that's impossible. Humans have been extinct for 3 millennia. Zethara felt a chill run through her amphibious body. She had studied human history as part of her archaeological training. They had been a violent, self-destructive species that had poisoned their own world before finally destroying themselves in a series of devastating wars. The Valthari had arrived to find a planet covered in ruins and radiation, with no living humans anywhere. "Run the analysis again," she ordered. "Check for errors in the sensor array." "Already done, Commander. Results are consistent." The holographic display updated, showing more detail about the approaching fleet. The ships were enormous, dwarfing anything the Valthari had ever built. Their design was sleek and predatory, like weapons crafted in the shape of vessels. "Send. A message to High Command," Zethara said. "Priority Alpha. We may have a first contact situation." Within hours, the news had spread throughout the system. The Valthari High Council convened an emergency session, with representatives from all 3 species arguing about the proper response. Some wanted to prepare defenses. Others insisted on diplomatic outreach. A few suggested evacuation. Zethara found herself appointed as head of the investigation team. Her expertise in human archaeology made her the obvious choice, though she wished someone else had the responsibility. She spent the next 3 days diving deep into human records, searching for clues about where they might have gone. The official history taught that humans had destroyed themselves, but as she dug deeper into the archives, she found troubling gaps. There were references to Exodus ships in some of the older documents, mentions of colonial preparations, and deep space missions. Most interesting of all, she discovered records of something called Project Homecoming that had been classified at the highest levels of human government. They didn't all die, she whispered to herself in the quiet of her research chamber. Some of them left. The implications were staggering. If humans had survived somewhere in deep space, what had they been doing for 3,000 years? What had they become? On the 10th day, the approaching fleet sent its first transmission. The message was broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Velthari standard language. This is Admiral Chen Okafor of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. We are returning to our homeworld. Please respond. The voice was calm, professional, and utterly terrifying in its confidence. Zethara played the message 17 times, analyzing every inflection. The speaker sounded like someone who had never doubted they would succeed in whatever they set out to do. High Command debated for another full day before authorizing a response. The message they crafted was diplomatic, but firm. Welcome to the Yao Sol system. This planet is now home to 3 billion Velthari citizens. We are willing to discuss your intentions through proper diplomatic channels. The human reply came back within minutes. Understood. We request immediate meeting to discuss terms for transition of planetary administration. Time is limited. Transition of planetary administration? Councillor Vexrath, the senior Luxari representative, flickered with indignation. They speak as if this is already decided. Perhaps they don't understand the situation, suggested Chief Hive Mind Zaktor of the Chittik. They may believe Earth is still uninhabited. Zethara studied the tactical displays showing the human fleet's approach. The ships moved with mathematical precision, their formation never varying by so much as a meter. Whatever these humans had become during their long exile, they had clearly learned discipline. I recommend we agree to the meeting, she said, but we do it on our terms, in our space, with our security. The High Council agreed. They would send their finest diplomatic vessel to meet with a single human ship at the edge of the system. It would be a show of good faith while maintaining safe distance from Earth. As the diplomatic mission prepared to launch, Zethara reviewed everything they knew about human psychology and behavior. The old records painted them as emotional, unpredictable, prone to violence when threatened. But those records were 3,000 years old. Who knew what time and space had done to them? The night before the mission launched, she stood again, at her observation window, looking down at the lights of New Geneva. 3 billion souls lived on this world now. The Hydrozans had built underwater cities more beautiful than anything in their species' history. The Chittik had established hive complexes that hummed with productivity and joy. The Luxari had found peace in Earth's upper atmosphere, their energy forms dancing in patterns of pure art. This was their home now. They had made it bloom again after the humans had nearly destroyed it. Whatever these returning humans wanted, they would have to understand that Earth belonged to someone else now. The diplomatic ship launched at dawn, carrying Zethara and a carefully selected team of negotiators. They had 17 different strategies, prepared, from generous relocation offers to firm territorial negotiations. They expected to meet desperate refugees seeking shelter, perhaps a few thousand survivors in outdated ships. What they found waiting for them at the system's edge was something else entirely. The human ship was beautiful and terrible, like a work of art designed to kill. It dwarfed their diplomatic vessel, its hull seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange energy patterns rippled across its surface, suggesting technology far beyond Velthari understanding. As their ship approached, Zethara felt a growing sense of unease. The humans had been gone for 3,000 years. What had they been doing all this time? She was about to find out. The docking process took 3 hours. The human ship seemed to scan every molecule of the Velthari diplomatic vessel before allowing contact. When the airlocks finally opened, Zethara got her first look at what humans had become. Admiral Chen Okafor was tall, much taller than the historical record suggested humans should be. Her skin had a strange metallic sheen, and her eyes held flecks of silver that seemed to glow in the dim light. When she moved, it was with fluid grace that reminded Zethara of deep ocean predators. "Commander Zethara," the Admiral said, extending her hand in the ancient human gesture of greeting. "Thank you for meeting with us." Zethara reached out to accept the handshake, following the diplomatic protocols her team had researched. The moment their hands touched, she gasped. The human's grip was like holding a piece of industrial machinery. The hand felt solid as stone, yet warm and clearly alive. "Please be seated," Admiral Chen said, gesturing to the conference table her people had prepared. We have much to discuss. As the Valthari delegation took their places, Zethara noticed more details about their hosts. The humans moved with perfect coordination, as if they shared some kind of invisible connection. Their clothing seemed to be made of material that shifted and flowed, adapting to their movements. Most unsettling of all, she could hear a faint, humming sound, as if each human carried some kind of power source inside their body. We understand you have made homes here during our absence, the Admiral began. This was not unexpected. 3,000 years is a long time. Yes, Zethara replied carefully. Earth has been our world for 70 generations. We have built cities, raised families, created art and culture. 3 billion of our people call this place home. Admiral Chen nodded thoughtfully. The archaeological reports we reviewed suggested as much. Your people have done remarkable work restoring the planet's ecosystem. We are genuinely grateful. The words were kind, but something in the Admiral's tone made Zethara's gills flutter nervously. It sounded like someone thanking caretakers who had looked after a house while the owners were away. However, the Admiral continued, we must now discuss the transition period. We are prepared to offer your people generous relocation packages to suitable worlds within your previous territory. Our xenobiological teams have identified 17 planets that would be ideal for Valthari colonization. The conference room fell silent. Zethara felt her teammates' shock through their shared communication link. The human was talking about moving 3 billion people as if it were a simple logistical problem. Admiral, Zethara said carefully, I think there may be some misunderstanding. We are not temporary residents here. Earth is our legal home under galactic law. We have occupied it for 3 millennia. I understand your position, Admiral Chen replied, and we sympathize with it. But Earth was never abandoned by humanity. We left to grow stronger, with every intention of returning. Think of it as a very long military deployment. One of Zethara's advisors, a Chitic legal expert named Krelsen, leaned forward. Admiral, with respect, your species was declared extinct by the Galactic Council. Legal occupation of abandoned worlds is recognized throughout civilized space. Something changed in Admiral Chen expression. The politeness remained, but underneath it, Zethara glimpsed something that made her blood run cold. The Galactic Council, the Admiral said softly, operates under the assumption that might makes right. They respect whoever has the strongest fleet and the most advanced weapons. Would you care to compare our current capabilities? Before anyone could answer, the Admiral gestured to one of her escorts. The human stepped forward, and Zethara finally got a good look at what 3,000 years had done to the species. The man was enormous, easily 7 feet tall, with muscles that seemed carved from granite. His skin had the same metallic sheen as the Admiral's, but more pronounced. When he moved to adjust a chair, the metal furniture crumpled like paper in his grip. Sergeant Torres, Admiral Chen said, please give our guests a demonstration of standard human physical capabilities. The sergeant picked up the solid metal conference table, which had to weigh at least 500 pounds, and lifted it over his head with one hand. He held it there for several seconds, not even breathing hard, then gently set it back down. Enhanced bone density, muscle fiber restructuring, and integrated nanotechnology, the Admiral explained casually. Every human now carries these modifications as standard. The sergeant here is actually below average for our current military standards. Zethara tried to process what she was seeing. These weren't the same species that had left Earth. Evolution, technology, or both had transformed them into something new. Your people have grown, she managed to say. We have adapted, Admiral Chen corrected. 3,000 years of colonizing high-gravity worlds, radiation-soaked systems, and hostile environments. Humanity faced a simple choice: evolve or die. We chose evolution. The Admiral activated a holographic display that showed star charts of the local galactic region. Dozens of systems were marked with human symbols, connected by lines indicating trade routes and military positions. We have colonized 47 star systems, she continued. Each world presented unique challenges that required specific adaptations. Desert worlds taught us to survive without water for months. Ice worlds enhanced our cold resistance and improved our metabolism. High radiation systems gave us immunity to energy that would kill most species. The display zoomed in on several worlds, showing massive cities and industrial complexes that dwarfed anything in Velthari space. Our smallest colony has a population of 50 million. Our largest holds over 1 billion. We have built an interstellar civilization that spans light years, with technology your people have never imagined. Krelson clicked his mandibles nervously. If you are so successful in space, why return to Earth? Surely you have worlds better suited to your enhanced physiology. Admiral Chen expression softened slightly. Because this is home. Every human child learns about Earth in their first lessons. They learn about blue skies and green forests, about oceans full of life, and seasons that change with natural rhythm. We have built paradise among the stars, but paradise isn't home. She stood and walked to the view screen, looking out at Earth's blue marble hanging in space. We also carry a promise, she continued. When our ancestors left, they swore an oath that their children would return. That promise has been kept alive for 100 generations. We are here to fulfill it. And if we refuse to leave? Zethara asked, though she dreaded the answer. Admiral Chen turned back to them, and her expression was genuinely sad. Then you will learn why humanity survived when so many other species did not. We do not wish conflict, Commander. We have seen too much death in our long journey through the stars. But we will have our world back. She pressed a control on her wrist device, and the view screen changed to show the human fleet. Thousands of ships hung in space, each one bristling with weapons and technology that looked like pure energy given form. We give you 7 days to consider our offer, Admiral Chen said. Discuss it with your leaders. Review your options. We hope wisdom will prevail, but we are prepared for any outcome. The meeting ended in stunned silence. As the Velthari delegation prepared to leave, Zethara found herself studying the humans more carefully. They moved like dancers, spoke like poets, and radiated the quiet confidence of apex predators who had never known defeat. During the journey back to Earth, her team sat in shocked silence. Finally, Krelson spoke what they were all thinking. They're not the same species that left, he whispered. There's something new, something more. Zethara nodded, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. 3 billion Velthari called that beautiful blue world home. But she was beginning to understand that they might be living in someone else's house. The humans had returned, and they were nothing like what anyone had expected. The Velthari High Council met in emergency session for 3 straight days. Representatives from all 3 species argued, planned, and prepared, while the human fleet waited at the edge of their system. Some called for immediate surrender. Others demanded they fight for their home. Zethara stood before the assembled leaders, delivering her report with growing dread. Every detail she had observed about the humans painted the same picture. They were dealing with beings far beyond their ability to resist. They are not refugees, she concluded. They are conquerors who have returned to claim their birthright. Every scan we have taken of their ships shows technology centuries beyond our understanding. Councillor Vexrath flickered with indignation. 3 billion citizens cannot simply be relocated because some enhanced humans have decided they want their old world back. The legal precedent is clear, Chief Hivemind Zaktor added. This world belongs to us now. We have invested 70 generations in its development. Zethara wanted to agree with them, but she had looked into Admiral Chen eyes. Those were not the eyes of someone who would be swayed by legal arguments. I recommend we begin evacuation preparations while maintaining diplomatic contact, she said. These humans do not seem interested in genocide. They want the planet, not our deaths. The debate continued for hours, but it ended when the human fleet began to move. Long-range sensors detected the massive ships entering Earth's solar system in perfect formation. They moved slowly, deliberately, giving the Velthari time to track their approach. It was the movement of someone supremely confident in their superiority. Admiral Chen Okafor sent another message. "We are beginning orbital operations. Please, keep your ships clear of designated zones. We wish to avoid accidental conflict." Within 6 hours, the humans had established complete control of space around Earth. Their ships took positions at every major orbital point, creating a perfect sphere of military control. Any ship trying to leave the planet would have to pass through their perimeter, but they didn't fire a single shot. "It's a demonstration," Zethara realized, watching the tactical displays. "They're showing us they could destroy our orbital infrastructure anytime they choose, but they're choosing not to." The first human landing craft appeared 12 hours later. Unlike their massive warships, these vessels were smaller, more elegant. They descended toward Earth's surface like falling stars. Too fast and too graceful for any technology the Velthari understood. The Chittick tried to intercept them with ground-based defenses. Their missile systems locked onto the incoming craft and fired their most advanced weapons. Zethara watched in horror as the human ship simply absorbed the missile impacts without even slowing down. "Their hulls are adapting," the weapons officer reported in disbelief. "The armor is learning from each hit and becoming resistant." The landing craft touched down in 17 locations across Earth's surface. Each landing was followed by the emergence of human soldiers who moved with impossible speed and coordination. These weren't the enhanced specimens from the diplomatic meeting. These were something far more dangerous. Zethara got her first look at them through surveillance feeds from New Geneva. The humans wore armor that seemed to be alive, shifting and flowing as they moved. When they walked, the ground beneath their feet cracked from the impact. When they spoke, their voices carried for miles without technological amplification. "Terran Reclamation Corps, First Wave," their leader announced. "Beginning ecosystem restoration in designated zones. All civilian populations, please evacuate to safe distances." What followed was unlike anything in recorded history. The humans didn't destroy the Velthari cities. Instead, they began transforming the landscape around them. Massive machines emerged from their landing craft, devices that seemed to rewrite the basic rules of biology and chemistry. Forests that had been adapted for Chittick physiology began shifting back to their original Earth configurations. Hydroxan water treatment plants found their chemical processes reversed as the humans restored natural ocean chemistry. The very air began to change as atmospheric processors removed the modifications that had made Earth comfortable for alien lungs. "They're not just taking the planet," Chief Scientist Krillix reported in amazement. "They're changing it back to what it was before we arrived." The process was happening too fast for natural evolution. The humans had technology that could alter ecosystems on a planetary scale within hours. Plants withered and were replaced by new growth. Water composition shifted. Even the soil itself began changing color and texture. The Hydroxan resistance mounted their counterattack from the deep ocean trenches. Commander Zethara led the assault personally, bringing their most advanced underwater weapons against the human landing sites near the coastlines. They discovered that humans had anticipated this response. As Zethara's forces approached the first human position, they encountered soldiers who moved through the water like born predators. These humans had been modified for aquatic combat, with gill-like slits along their necks and webbed appendages that cut through water faster than Hydroxan swimmers. The battle was over in minutes. Human weapons fired energy beams that turned water into superheated plasma. Their armor let them dive to crushing depths where no Velthari could survive. Most terrifying of all, they fought with perfect coordination, as if they shared a single mind. "Fall back," Zethara ordered, watching her forces scatter before the human advance. "All units, fall back to deep positions." But there were no safe, deep positions. Human submersibles appeared at depths that should have been impossible, their hulls withstanding pressure that would crush any known material. They moved through the deepest trenches, like they owned them. High in the atmosphere, the Luxari faced their own nightmare. They had tried to use their energy manipulation abilities to disrupt human technology, confident that their mastery of electromagnetic forces would give them an advantage. Instead, They encountered humans who had learned to weaponize thought itself. The psychic battle created aurora displays visible from Earth's surface, as energy beings clashed with human minds that had been enhanced beyond normal limits. But the Luxari collective consciousness, which had always been their strength, became a weakness against opponents who could turn their shared thoughts into weapons. Within days, it was clear that resistance was hopeless. Every Vilthari strategy was anticipated. Every weapon was countered. Every defensive position was bypassed or overwhelmed. But the humans still weren't killing them. Civilian evacuation ships will be permitted to leave designated zones, Admiral Chen announced. Transport to our prepared relocation worlds will begin immediately. We recommend compliance for your own safety. The evacuation became a flood. Millions of Vilthari packed into ships, heading for the 17 worlds the humans had offered them. Those who remained found themselves living in increasingly alien environments as Earth's transformation continued. Zathara stood in her command center, watching her underwater city slowly become uninhabitable as the humans restored natural ocean chemistry. Her people were already beginning to suffer from the changed water composition. Soon they would have no choice but to leave. Commander, her communications officer called. We're receiving a personal message from Admiral Chen. The human appeared on the main screen, looking as calm and professional as ever. Commander Zathara, I understand you are leading the remaining resistance elements. I want to speak with you directly. What do you want to say? Zathara replied. That I respect your courage and your loyalty to your people. You have fought well for your home. But this battle cannot be won. Please consider the lives of those who follow you. Zathara stared at the human admiral, seeing genuine respect in those enhanced eyes. Why are you doing this? You could have destroyed us all from orbit. Why the slow conquest? Admiral Chen expression softened slightly. Because we remember what it feels like to lose everything and start over. We remember the pain of leaving the only world we had ever known. We do not wish that suffering on others unnecessarily, but you'll inflict it anyway. Yes, the Admiral admitted, because this is our home, and we have waited 3,000 years to return to it. We will be as merciful as possible, but we will not be denied. The transmission ended, leaving Zathara alone with her thoughts. Around her, the last free Vilthari forces waited for orders that she knew would only lead to more death. The humans had returned. They were too strong to stop, and Earth belonged to them again. The siege of New Geneva began on the 15th day of human occupation. The great city stood as the last symbol of Vilthari civilization on Earth, its crystal spires reaching into the clouds above the ancient Swiss Alps. 50 million civilians, sheltered within its walls, along with the remaining military forces of all three species. Zathara stood on the command tower's observation deck, watching human forces surround the city. They moved with mechanical precision, establishing a perfect perimeter that sealed off every escape route. But they weren't attacking. They were waiting. What are they doing? Asked General Vokhtar, the Chittic military commander. His compound eyes tracked the human positions with growing frustration. Why don't they simply overwhelm us? Because they want something, Zathara replied, studying the human formations through her tactical scope. This isn't about conquest anymore. They could have taken the city by now. Her answer came 3 hours later when massive drilling equipment began emerging from human landing craft. The machines were unlike anything in Vilthari technology, boring into the earth with beams of energy that turned solid rock into vapor. They're digging, reported Chief Scientist Krillax, directly beneath the city center, going deeper than our foundations. The drilling continued for days. Human excavation teams worked around the clock, their enhanced bodies never seeming to tire. They dug with purpose, following some predetermined path that led straight down through layers of stone and metal. On the third day of digging, they found what they were looking for. Dr. Marcus Webb emerged from the excavation site like a man returning from prayer. The human archaeologist moved with reverent care as he supervised the removal of artifacts from deep beneath New Geneva's foundations. Admiral Chen arrived personally to oversee the operation. She stood at the edge of the dig site, watching, as her people brought up containers that glowed with soft internal light. The Genesis Archive, she announced over the communication channels, the cultural and genetic heritage of humanity, sealed away before our ancestors left Earth. Everything we were, everything we hope to become, stored in quantum crystal matrices that have waited 3,000 years for us to return. Zethara felt a chill run through her amphibious body. The humans hadn't just come back to reclaim their planet. They had come back to reclaim their souls. "Commander?" Admiral Chen Okafor's voice came through the communication system. "I request a meeting. There are things you need to understand." They met in the ruins of the old United Nations building, halfway between the human excavation site and the Valthari defensive perimeter. The symbolism wasn't lost on either of them. "Your city is built on our most sacred site," Admiral Chen Okafor explained, her enhanced features showing genuine emotion for the first time. "When our ancestors prepared for Exodus, they knew they might never return. So they buried everything that made us human beneath the ground, hoping that someday our children would come home and remember who they were." Zethara looked at the glowing containers arranged around them. "What's in there?" "Art, music, literature, philosophy. The genetic templates of every species that lived on Earth before the Great Dying. Mathematical proofs, scientific theories, and the dreams of a billion human minds. Everything we lost when we left, everything we've spent 3,000 years trying to recreate." Dr. Webb approached, carrying one of the smaller containers. "May I show you something, Commander?" At Zethara's nod, he activated the device, the air filled with music, hauntingly beautiful melodies that seemed to touch something deep in her consciousness. Images followed the sound: forests, oceans, animals that had died out millennia ago, children laughing under blue skies. "This is what Earth was," Dr. Webb said softly. "This is what we're trying to bring back." "And what about us?" Zethara asked. "What about the 50 million people in that city?" Admiral Chen Okafor's expression hardened. "They cannot stay. I'm sorry, but that's not negotiable. However, their removal need not be violent." That's when the demonstration began. High above Earth, something ignited in the outer solar system. Jupiter, the great gas giant, began to glow with new light. The glow grew brighter and brighter until it became a second sun, casting shadows across Earth's surface in broad daylight. "Stellar engineering," Admiral Chen Okafor said calmly, watching Zethara's horrified expression. "We're converting Jupiter's atmosphere into a temporary fusion reaction. Don't worry, it will burn out in a few hours. But the process demonstrates our capabilities." Zethara stared at the new sun blazing in the sky. These humans didn't just have advanced weapons. They had technology that could manipulate stars themselves. "Why show me this?" she whispered. "Because I want you to understand that resistance is not just futile, it's unnecessary. We don't want to destroy you. We want to give you something better than what you have here." The Admiral activated a holographic display showing the 17 worlds humans had prepared for Valthari relocation. Each planet had been carefully terraformed to match the specific needs of all three species. Ocean worlds for the Hydrazans, hive-ready continents for the Chittic, energy-rich atmospheres for the Luxari. "These worlds are not consolation prizes," Admiral Chen Okafor continued. "They are gifts. We have spent decades preparing them, using technology and resources that dwarf anything your people have ever possessed. Each world is better suited to your species than Earth ever was. Then why do you want Earth back?" "Because it's home," the Admiral replied simply. "Because our children dream of blue skies and natural forests. Because we made a promise 3,000 years ago and promises matter." The temporary star faded as Jupiter's atmospheric reaction burned out, but its message was clear. Humanity had become something that treated solar systems as construction projects. Inside New Geneva, the Valthari leadership finally faced the truth. Chief Hive Mind Zaktor was the first to speak the words no one wanted to hear. "We cannot win this war." "They turned a gas giant into a star," General Vaktar said, his voice hollow. "For a few hours just to make a point. What else can they do?" The answer came from their own intelligence reports. Human colonies throughout the galaxy had been sending ships toward Earth, carrying millions of settlers ready to rebuild their ancestral home. The fleet in orbit was just the advance force. The real colonization fleet was still coming. How many? Zethara asked. Conservative estimates suggest 200 million humans in the first wave, Krillix reported, with more following every year until the planet reaches its optimal carrying capacity. The numbers were overwhelming. Even if the Vilthari could somehow defeat the military forces, they would face an endless stream of human colonists, each one enhanced beyond natural limits, each one carrying technology that made Vilthari science look primitive. But the most devastating revelation came from the human archaeological teams. As they excavated the Genesis archive, they discovered that Earth's natural ecosystem under Vilthari management wasn't natural at all. "They've been using our own restoration work against us," Dr. Webb announced. "Every forest you replanted, every ocean you cleaned, every mountain you rebuilt. You were unknowingly following the original Earth template stored in the archive. You've been preparing our world for our return for 3,000 years. The irony was perfect and horrible. The Vilthari hadn't just been occupying Earth. They had been caretaking it, maintaining it exactly as humans would want it when they returned." As night fell over New Geneva, Zethara made her decision. She activated the emergency communication system and sent a message to all Vilthari forces. "This is Commander Zethara. I am ordering a general ceasefire. All units, stand down and prepare for evacuation orders." The response was immediate and emotional. Some called her a traitor. Others begged her to reconsider, but most simply acknowledged the inevitable. "Commander," Admiral Chen voice came through the communication system. "You have made the right choice." "Have I?" Zethara asked. "Or have I just surrendered 3 billion people to exile?" "You have saved 3 billion lives," the Admiral replied, "and given them a chance to build something new and better. That is the choice of a true leader." As the last human excavation teams emerged from beneath New Geneva, carrying the final containers of the Genesis archive, Zethara understood that this had always been inevitable. Earth belonged to humanity not because they were stronger, but because they had never truly left it behind. The archive contained their dreams, their hopes, and their unbreakable connection to the blue world that had given them birth. 3,000 years in exile had only made that connection stronger. The humans had returned. They had grown too strong to stop, and Earth was calling them home. The challenge came at dawn on the 20th day. Commander Zethara stood in the ruins of the old United Nations Plaza, watching the sun rise over a world that was no longer hers. Around her, the last Vilthari military units prepared for evacuation, while human restoration teams continued their work of reshaping the planet. "I invoke the right of final contest," she announced, her voice carrying across the plaza through amplified speakers. "Single combat between champions, with terms to be set by the outcome." The human response came within minutes. Admiral Chen herself appeared at the edge of the plaza, flanked by her enhanced soldiers. But she wasn't smiling. "Commander, this is unnecessary," the Admiral said. "The evacuation is proceeding smoothly. Your people are already establishing new homes on the worlds we've prepared. Why risk lives on ceremonial combat?" "Because my people need to see that we fought to the end," Zethara replied, "and because I need to know if there's any chance, however small, that we might still call this world home." Admiral Chen studied her for a long moment. "What are your proposed terms? If my champion wins, you withdraw your forces for 100 years, allowing us time to evacuate peacefully on our own terms. If your champion wins, we surrender immediately and accept your relocation program without further resistance." The Admiral nodded slowly. "And who will serve as your champion?" Zethara straightened her shoulders. "I will. And ours will be Dr. Elena Vasquez, our chief xenobiologist." The choice surprised everyone, including Zethara. She had expected to face one of the massive Void Marines or enhanced soldiers. Instead, the humans had chosen a woman who appeared to be an ordinary scientist. Dr. Vasquez approached across the plaza, moving with the same fluid grace all humans now possessed, but showing none of the obvious physical enhancements of the soldiers. She was tall but not gigantic, strong but not obviously superhuman. When she spoke, her voice was gentle and kind. "Commander Zethara, I want you to know that I respect your courage. You fought well for your people." "As have you, Doctor," Zethara replied. "Shall we begin?" The combat area was cleared in the center of the plaza, with representatives from all three Valthari species watching from safe distances. Human recording devices captured every moment, while Valthari communication networks carried the event live to their evacuation ships. "Traditional combat rules," Admiral Chen announced. "Hand-to-hand only. No technological enhancements beyond those that are part of your natural biology. Combat continues until one participant yields or is incapacitated." Zethara activated her species' natural bioelectric abilities. Feeling power surge through her amphibious body, electric arcs danced between her webbed fingers as she prepared to strike. Her people were natural warriors, adapted for underwater combat and electrical discharge. Dr. Vasquez simply stood there, hands at her sides, watching with calm interest. Zethara struck first, moving with the lightning speed of a deep ocean predator. Her electric discharge would have stunned any Valthari opponent, but Dr. Vasquez simply absorbed the energy, her skin glowing briefly as it dissipated the electrical attack. "Radiation resistance," the doctor explained conversationally, dodging Zethara's follow-up strike with minimal effort. 3,000 years of colonizing systems with unstable stars tends to select for energy absorption capabilities. Zethara pressed her attack, using her aquatic-adapted physiology to flow around the human's defenses. But Dr. Vasquez moved like water herself, always one step ahead of every strike. "Your combat form is impressive," Dr. Vasquez continued, catching Zethara's wrist in mid-strike and gently redirecting the attack. "Hydrozan fighting techniques are perfectly adapted for three-dimensional underwater combat. Unfortunately, we've had to develop similar skills for zero-gravity environments." The human scientist began her own offensive, and Zethara realized with growing horror that she was completely outmatched. Dr. Vasquez fought with perfect efficiency, never using more force than necessary, never moving faster than required. Every motion was calculated, every strike precisely placed to disable rather than destroy. "Enhanced reflexes from high-gravity world adaptation," Dr. Vasquez explained as she avoided another of Zethara's electrical attacks. "Improved bone density from low-oxygen environments. Muscle fiber enhancement from worlds where everything tries to kill you." Zethara found herself being systematically dismantled by someone who was giving her a biology lesson while defeating her in combat. The human wasn't even breathing hard. "The interesting thing about human evolution over the past 3 millennia," Dr. Vasquez continued, blocking a desperate strike and responding with a gentle tap that sent Zethara stumbling, "is that we didn't just adapt to individual challenges. We learned to adapt to adaptation itself." The final exchange was brief. Zethara gathered all her remaining strength for one last attack, channeling every volt of bioelectricity her body could produce. The discharge was powerful enough to kill most living beings. Dr. Vasquez caught the electrical blast in her bare hands, absorbed it completely, then redirected it harmlessly into the ground. In the same fluid motion, she stepped forward and placed her hand gently on Zethara's shoulder. The touch was enough. Zethara felt her legs give way as every muscle in her body went limp. She collapsed to her knees not from injury, but from the overwhelming realization of just how completely she had been outmatched. "Neural pathway mapping," Dr. Vasquez explained softly, kneeling beside her. "Non-lethal pressure point manipulation, adapted from encounters with 17 different hostile species. You're not hurt, just temporarily immobilized." Zethara looked up at the human scientist, seeing genuine compassion in those enhanced eyes. "Why?" she whispered. "Why show me this?" "Because you needed to understand," Dr. Vasquez replied. "Every human carries these abilities now, not just our soldiers, not just our enhanced troops. Every one of us. We didn't just grow stronger during our exile, Commander. We grew beyond what we used to be." As feeling returned to her limbs, Zethara struggled to sit up. Around the plaza she could see the shocked expressions of her people. They had watched their finest warrior defeated by a human scientist who had barely exerted herself. Your people fought bravely, Dr. Vasquez continued, helping Zathara to her feet. You adapted well to this world and built something beautiful here, but adaptation is what humans do best. It's what we've always done best. We adapt, we overcome, and we survive. Admiral Chen Okafor approached, her expression serious but not unkind. The terms of combat have been met. Do you yield, Commander? Zathara looked around the plaza one last time, seeing the human restoration teams already at work, seeing her own people preparing to board evacuation ships. The decision had been made long before the fight began. I yield, she said quietly. The Valthari Confederation surrenders Earth to human authority. The evacuation proceeded with military efficiency. Within weeks, the last Valthari transport ships departed Earth's atmosphere, carrying 3 billion civilians to their new homes among the stars. The humans kept their promises about the relocation worlds, providing technology and resources that surpassed anything the Valthari had possessed on Earth. But for Zathara, now serving as Valthari liaison to the human colonial government, the memory of that final combat never faded. She had fought the future itself and lost. 1 year later, she stood in the restored Amazon rainforest, watching human children play among trees that grew from seeds stored in the Genesis archive. The planet teemed with life again, not the adapted ecosystems the Valthari had created, but the original Earth ecosystem restored to its ancient glory. Admiral Chen Okafor joined her on the observation platform, looking out over the green canopy that stretched to the horizon. Do you regret it? The Admiral asked. Zathara considered the question. Her people were thriving on their new worlds, building civilizations that surpassed anything they had achieved on Earth. But this world, this beautiful blue marble, would never be theirs again. No, she said finally. You were right. This is your home. It was always your home, even during the long exile. We were just keeping it safe until you could return. Admiral Chen Okafor removed her helmet, revealing features that still carried the scars of humanity's ancient exodus. She was older than she looked, one of the children who had left Earth 3,000 years ago and lived to see its reclamation. We kept our promise, she said softly. We came home. We just needed time to become strong enough to keep it. Above, them human ships continued to arrive from distant colonies, carrying millions of settlers eager to walk on the world their ancestors had dreamed of. Each ship brought new stories of human adaptation and survival, of worlds conquered and challenges overcome. The humans had returned to Earth. They had grown too strong to stop, and in their strength, they had found their way home at last. In her final report to the Galactic Council, Zathara wrote simply, Humanity has returned. They are not the species that left. Consider this both a warning and an opportunity. They offer partnership to those who accept their strength, and they keep their promises to both enemies and friends. The age of human expansion has begun. The blue world turned in space, alive with the dreams of a species that had traveled to the stars and found their way back to where they